Examining Report ID 2026.
There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. So, what's up, family? Marcus Hart here. Welcome back to the Urban News Journal. And I want to personally welcome you guys to this particular stream and this installment of the UNJ. And I want you locked in for this one, most importantly, because today we got a president who almost pulled the trigger on Iran and then pulled it right back at the last second. We got a cabinet secretary going toe to toe with CNN on live television over vaccines and measles. Then we got 24,000 of our neighbors right here in Wisconsin about to lose their food assistance. Somebody about to go hungry today. Oh my goodness. No, that ain't right. It ain't right. Okay. And because we don't only do the heavy lifting here, Spider-Man just broke box office history this weekend. 4 stories about close to an hour, hopefully, may take on, so my take on all of this and much, much more. So without further ado, I would like for us to get right on into it. So before I dive in, and boy, I'm going to dive in, and shout out to everybody out there who's watching right now. You guys are the true MVPs. And if you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now. Tap that bell because this is the Urban News Journal. And we do this 3 times a week. That's right, 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And once again, I'm working out these times that we actually go live. But for the most part, what I'm getting a response on from people who has tuned in and people who has caught the replay of everything, they're telling me that maybe the afternoons, like, late afternoon, like around this time might be the ideal place to go. So if that is true, and I'm all with it. I'm all with it. Definitely all with it. So if that is true, we definitely will do that. Okay, we definitely will, without a shadow of a doubt. And okay, so yeah, we're gonna be breaking down what's actually trending and telling you the truth about all of it with a little edge and a little faith mixed in. I see some of you already dropping in the chat. Welcome, 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 welcome. Say where you watching from. Let me know, where are you watching from. It is always good to hear from our people out there. And then I'll shout you out too. So if you ain't feeling shy, go ahead, drop that comment right now. Let me tell you about the next story coming up here. So the story coming up, first off, let's start with the story that had the whole world holding their breath all of this weekend. Because we were closer to a shooting war than most people realize. What? Say what? What? Say what? Here's what happened. In case you ain't been paying attention, that's what I'm here for, to let you know what's been happening. President Trump had U.S. forces locked and loaded. Locked and loaded, baby. That's the phrase being used. And that's the phrase we used to use a lot when I was in the military. And that phrase was being applied for what we thought was gonna be a major strike on Iran. And over the weekend, guess what he did? You wanna take a guess? Do you really wanna know what do you wanna know what happened? He called it off. Mm. He called it off. What? And it's not because the threat went away. No. But because Secretary of State Marco Rubio, little Marco, little Marco Rubio, he is saying Iran is now, quote, on quote, more prepared to negotiate on the nuclear program and on the Strait of Hamas. Do you believe that? Do any of you really believe that? Okay. How many times have we been here? So here's my honest read on it. And of course, I'm going to give you my honest read. You have to know. I don't think pulling back a strike is weakness. Nuh-uh. I think there's a difference between restraint and retreat. And a president who can stand down forces that are already locked and loaded and still keep the other side negotiating. That's leverage, not hesitation. So, you know, I know we've been here before. I know, they keep on saying it's gonna be over. We already close. We're not close. We're gonna strike. We're gonna do all this. We're gonna be dangerous. We're not gonna be dangerous. Whatever. But I also want to be honest with you about the risk here. There is risk involved. And okay. All right. So my mic went down on me. All right. Let me switch back over. Uh, So, I'm playing around with a new mic. It's something I don't know what it is about this thing. I do not know what it is. But it is quite annoying. You know, I don't know if I can either charge this thing or what, but I hate when it catches me mid sentence because that makes me look very it makes me look very crazy. you know. It's the devil at work, everybody. It's the devil at work. I swear it's the devil. It's that doggone devil every single time. That damn. Oh man, we just gonna roll with it. Where was I? So let me recount where I was. Huh. Where was I? Okay. And then this thing is so weird. Anyway, so I was talking about the risk. That's where I was at. I was at risk. The risk, right? So the risk is the Strait of Hamas is not some side issue at all. That's one of the most important shipping lanes on the planet for oil. On the entire planet, folks. The entire planet. All right. And if that gets interrupted, if that at all is closed off, and yeah, you're going to feel it. You will feel it and you will know. Not Washington, not some think tank. I mean, you at the pump, in the grocery bill, in everything that gets shipped through there. You're going to feel it. And I've been warning you guys every episode that I have dropped so far since being back that this thing can really put people out in the street. It can. The very mere thought of that should alone have you guys in a uprising.
So what are we doing? So what are we doing? What are we really doing? So this is what happens. So when people ask me, Marcus, why do you cover foreign policy on a channel about trending news? This is exactly why, folks. This is exactly why. And believe me when I tell you this, it ain't gonna be too many people out in the streaming world that's in this space that's going to keep it real with you. Okay, and just tell you straight, none of the technical terms, none of all of this unnecessary stacks and things that just don't even matter. I'm gonna give it to you straight. I'm gonna give it to you the 8-year-old way. Okay, we're gonna break it down to you like you 8 years old, so you can understand. Okay. Oh man. All right, so Iran and the Strait of Hamas sound like somebody else's problem, right? It do. But it's going to be your problem if them gas prices continue to jump up 30 cents overnight. This is going to be a kitchen table story wearing a foreign policy suit. Okay? So, hey, again, I'm warning you guys. I'm trying to help you guys brace for the worst case scenario if that was to come. Knock on wood that it don't. But until then, I want to hear from you on this one, on this particular one. Do you think standing down was the right call that Trump made, or little Marco? Or should they, went on ahead and went forward with a stronger response? Drop what you think in the chat right now. And if you're shy, you can always drop a comment afterwards. And I'm going to open up this thing right now, so go ahead and drop your thoughts, and I will read some of what you guys are saying. If you're saying anything at all, all right. But, we're building this thing, man. We're building this thing brick by brick, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that. All right. So when I look over here at the personal invite stream, there's a lot of people kind of split on this. They split down the middle, and that tells me exactly the kind of story we need to keep. That this is the type of story that we need to keep talking about honestly instead of just picking a team. So let's move to something a little bit more closer at home. And honestly, it's messy. Okay, I hate to be the guy to be messy today, but we gotta get into it. I gotta let you guys know what's going on with this one. So this next one is a media story as much as it is a health story. And for that for that fact alone, I think strongly that it is a combination that truly matters to all of you guys. Okay, it's definitely a combination that really matters to you guys. So this weekend, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK, he sat down with CNN's Dana Bash. And I'm telling you, it didn't go too smoothly for either side. Okay. Well, we had Bash pushing him super hard, and then saying that the current the measles outbreak, is the worst this country has seen in over 30 years, over 2,300 confirmed cases. Okay. And it is at least partly because of vaccine hesitancy that Kennedy himself helped put the fuel on the fire for that one. He started that, right? That's what they saying. They saying that he started it. His response was to turn it back on the media itself. He told her on air, clean on air, that we have to admit his words, so, we have to admit what his words were. We did everything virtually wrong, he said, during COVID, is what he's talking about. and that legacy media helped silence dissent instead of asking hard questions, quote. And Bash visibly did not want to go there. She kept on trying to steer it back to the measles. Let's forget about COVID. COVID didn't happen, according to Bash. She's more concerned about measles, which, it makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, I'm not going to sit up here and say, the 2,300, whatever is not important, but, we gotta figure out, like, how this all came about. The COVID jab, had a lot of people kind of split on should you do it, should you not. So here's where I land. And I'm going to say this plainly because this is what I mean by a journalist's edge instead of a hot take. Both things can be true at the same time. The media absolutely got things wrong during COVID. We know that. The flip-flopping on the mask, the shutting down of legitimate scientific debates, calling people conspiracy theorists for asking questions that turned out to be reasonable in the first place, that absolutely happened. And I watched it happen, and so did many of you watch it happen. Some of you participated in the debates and the arguments. Okay, we everybody had their little debates and arguments, that were considered private citizens, at least, And at the same time, though, again, I'm going to be sensitive to it. We are watching measles spread in this country at a rate we have not seen in 3 decades. And in communities where vaccination rates have dropped, actually. Both of those things are real. They're real. You don't get to use one truth to arrest. You can't. Yeah, you probably would arrest the other, but the correct term is erase the other one. And that's exactly what both sides in that interview were trying to do to each other. They were trying to cancel out the other. Okay, they were playing Uno reverse. Everybody had an Uno reverse card. Like they stacked the whole deck with Uno reverse cards. Wow. So I want you to know where you land on this, because I think this is a bigger than Kennedy or Bash individually type of thing. It's about whether we can even trust the institutions on either side of that table anymore. So if you are nosediving in the chat, tell me, who do you trust less right now, the press or the health agencies? Let's see what you got. I would like to know. You can drop it in the comments. Let me know how you feel. Let me know how you feel. The press or the health agencies. Ooh. This is a story that I don't think is ever gonna get old. This whole COVID thing. I don't think that thing's gonna get old at all. So right quick, before we head into our next story, we are already at the halfway mark of the show, believe it or not. And if you've been sitting here for 20 some odd minutes with me, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. This is the Urban News Journal. We post here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week. 3 times a week, y'all. And honestly, subscribing is the single biggest thing that tells YouTube and Facebook, wherever you're watching, Twitch, wherever, to put this in front of more people who need to hear it. All right. I want to bring this right on home this time. I want to talk about something that is affecting Milwaukee right here where I live. Okay. Let's get into that. And again, you guys can continue the conversation about the last story. It doesn't matter, whatever you like to do. But whatever it is, I just want you guys to enjoy yourself. I really want you guys to, feel like you getting the right type of information here. I want you to, feel that you can come to me and get your questions answered. So if you got any, I'm all game for it. So with that being said, one second. So with that being said, this next story is in the national headline. And for that reason, you're not going to see it on the network news tonight. Don't expect it. But it's happening to our neighbors right here in Wisconsin. And that's exactly why we are covering it. Okay, it's something that is hitting hard close to home. So, new documentation requirements for SNAP, food assistance. They just absolutely kicked in. And the numbers coming out, and I'm going to take this off. So, the numbers coming out are rough. These Wisconsin numbers are looking crazy. Okay. At least 24,000 people in this state are losing their food aid because they now have to document that they're working. And a lot of them either can't get the paperwork through in time enough, or they're working jobs that don't give them that kind of clean documentation since these new rules have set in. So it's making it pretty hard for somebody, for a lot of people out there. And I used to know a guy that do paperwork. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, but I'm kind of serious. That was back in my backsliding days. Man, we used to get that paperwork together. go go see Buddy down the street. But for real though, let's be clear, brother. Let's be clear, brothers. Let's be clear about who this is. This isn't some abstract welfare debate, that you may hear. This is about somebody's grandmother, somebody working 2 part-time jobs with no HR department to print her a pay stub, somebody who failed through a paperwork gap and not a work ethic gap. Okay. Now, I'm going to sit here. Well, I'm not going to sit here, actually. I'm not going to sit here and tell you work requirements are inherently evil. But what's also true, accountability in these programs absolutely matters. Most people actually agree with that in principle. But unfortunately, when the mechanisms for proving you are working is more broken than the people it's supposed to serve, that, my friend, that brother, is not accountability. That's just a filter that catches the wrong people up. Okay? And here's that piece that gets lost all the time. Milwaukee's food banks and community organizations are the ones who are going to take on all of this. Okay? They're going to get overwhelmed with this. And it's not going to be some line item in a federal budget, but real pantries, real churches, real neighbors, they picking up all the slack that a documentation system created. We're talking about documentation, man. What are we talking about? Documents. So, if you at all are watching this and you are in Milwaukee or anywhere in Wisconsin, I want to hear directly from you. Have you or somebody you know been caught up in this documentation gap? This change that is happening right now? Drop it in the chat, or you can always leave a comment afterwards. That's fine also. Tell me what you're seeing on the ground, because you know this better than any anchor reading a wire report. You do. You know it better than me, probably. Maybe. Okay? And that's real. That's exactly the kind of ground level detail that the big networks are never going to get into. They're never going to get into it. You could only catch it here. Only right here. I'm telling you guys, this is where you have to keep returning so you can get fed. Get fed the real news. Get fed the things that truly matter. Okay? It matters. Now, all right, we've done geopolitics, and we've been going on for a while now, and we have done media and health policy too. We even done local economics just now. As always, I like to do something special as we get into the fourth segment. The sports segment is to lighten things up a bit, because the next one it broke box office history this weekend. Okay? So we need something fun before we close this out. And this delivered, man. This absolutely delivered. And I seen the movie. I seen the movie. And we're gonna bring it up. I seen the movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day. I love it. I am a Marvel fanatic. I am a Spider-Man fanatic. Superheroes, man, I go crazy. I go crazy for the movies. I am there. Like there on opening day, not a day late. And for that reason, Spider-Man Brand New Day just had the second biggest opening weekend in the history of Hollywood. In the history, folks. I mean, $355 million domestic. Ooh, that's a lot of zeros. That's some commas in there. You got some commas in that mug. $355 million domestic in one weekend. That's crazy. Woo. $927 million worldwide. It ain't even been a full weekend, and this thing is on pace to hit $1 billion. Okay, this is crazy. And then on top of that, it set the all-time record for preview screenings. The preview screenings alone had brought in $72 million before the movie even officially opened up. That's bonkers. Now, why does this superhero movie belong on a news show besides the fact that I am a Spider-Man, I am a Marvel fanatic? Okay, you can't tell me nothing when it comes to Spider-Man, Marvel. Whew. But it's because box office numbers are one of the most honest polls we have of what people actually want right now. Okay, and it's not what they say in a survey, but it's what they put their money behind on a Friday night, right? And what they're telling us is that after years of superhero fatigue talk, they said that superhero movies was phasing out. People proved them wrong. People still showed up in force for a story that's done right. When Hollywood gets it right, okay, they can revive something that's dying. They absolutely can. And Spider-Man, he's just one of those type of characters that, I'll say as somebody who grew up, he works. I grew up on the Spider-Man, okay? He works because he's never been the guy with the most power in the ring, which is great. He's actually the guy with the most responsibility in the room. and that very famous whole ethos. With great power comes great responsibility. And I think that's a message that this culture needs on repeat right now. Way beyond just the movie theater, okay? Just because it's said in the movie theater don't mean it doesn't apply in real life, We take a lot of things we say out of the movies, try to apply them. Some things don't apply. Some things are fantasy, but that's a message right there that we need. So hats off to everybody who made that film. I loved it. My kids loved it. That's a genuine cultural moment right there. And it's a reminder that audiences are not dead. Stories that respect people are not dead. They just have to be really good. They can't suck. Don't put crappy stuff out. Don't get all woke, extra woke and put this stuff out. Don't get lazy either. So I want to know, have you seen it? Did you see Spider-Man yet? And for those who ain't seen it yet, they waiting on tomorrow. No spoilers in the chat, please. Do not put any spoilers in there for people. I'm not going to spoil anything either. But man, I'll tell you, this is great. I loved it. But tell me if you wanted to see it this week. I want to know if my audience is part of that $927 million. Woo! That's a lot of money. Whole lot of money. Okay. So I'm seeing the comments coming in over here on the other side. Not in YouTube, but people are dropping comments in some of the other platforms. People are saying, "Yes, I've seen the movie. It was awesome. It was cool. A lot of good reviews. A lot of good people just recapping that they had a good time and recommend it. And they say it's one of the best movies, hands down, this year. Okay, great. Okay, so with that being said, family, all right, I want to bring it home for you guys. Let's bring it all the way home. We covered a president pulling back from the edge of war, a health secretary and a journalist going to war with each other on live TV, 24,000 of our own neighbors losing food assistance over paperwork, and a movie about a kid who never asked for power but chose responsibility anyways. And if you notice, if you just take some time and really notice, every single one of those stories underneath the headline is really about the same question. What do we do with power? And what do we do with responsibility? Especially when no one is forcing us to do the right thing. Folks, brother, sister, that's not a political question. That's not even really a news question. That's more of a faith question. And in fact, it's a character question. Iran, they had the power to keep escalating and choose restraint. Kennedy and CNN both had the platform to just win an argument. And neither one chose humility. Humility. Okay? Wisconsin has a system with the power to help people. And right now, they're using paperwork as a way of getting in front of everybody's purpose. Well, at least the purpose of the program itself. And Peter Parker, fictional as he is, he chose the harder right thing when nobody would have blamed him for walking away. Here's what I want you to take out of this time that we have shared. Whatever you came in believing about any of these stories, you don't need a title. You don't need a badge. You don't need a cabinet position to practice the exact same thing we are asking of everybody in the news today. You can choose restraint over escalation in your own house this week. Okay? You can choose to be humble versus winning the argument with somebody you love. You can go check on a neighbor who might be one of those 24,000 people instead of waiting for a program to fix it. Faith without action is just a nice feeling. And I don't believe in nice feelings. I believe, folks, in moving, getting to action. Chew on that for a second. Chew on that. We need action, folks. And speaking of action, and real quick here, if this is your first time catching me here, this isn't the only place I show up. I have another show, my main show, the Transform You Live show. That's deeper, that's personal, that's my own story. Faith-filled, veteran to veteran, real transformation storytelling. I bring on awesome guests. I got a whole cast of guests lined up in the coming days here. I got a guest that will be on tomorrow. Okay, and man, you don't want to miss that one. This channel is where I break down what's trending in the world right now. That one, on the other hand, is where I go all the way inside. So make sure you find that one too, the Transform You Live show. And it changed how you see some of what we talked about today, too. It will do that for you. And one more thing before I let you go. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Urban News Journal. If you haven't yet, that's the whole ball game for us right now. That's how this show grows. Follow us everywhere we post. And if one of these stories hit you today, I want to urge you to send it to somebody who needs to see it, because that's worth more than this channel, than anything else I can ask for. And if you know, you know. I'm Marcus Hart. This has been the Urban News Journal. And guess what? I'll be back with you on Wednesday. And until next time, be blessed and go do something with what you just heard.